Yeah. Hey, what's up, everyone? DayTraderRockStar here for the 10 for 1,000 watch list for the week of February 27th. And really was looking forward to getting into the office this morning, to work on this watch list because for the last couple of weeks we've really been sticking to really intense discipline in the market, taking good profits, and we're seeing the charts really clearly. Really concentrate on certain formations, certain patterns, waiting for the best setups, using the HPS methodology, and just continue to profit off the market. So we're going to continue to do that, and just having such a successful week the last few weeks just makes me want to continue to to push in that direction. So going to start off just talking about how we ended the week, and we ended the week in a kind of the same way we've ended each of the past 8 weeks, basically 9 weeks, 10 weeks. We've been just grinding higher. The market has held a very tight range on the daily chart, and but at this point we're starting to recognize what I call a coiled stochastic indicator pointing up into a sell zone. It's almost like a rising wedge, and this typically breaks down. It will break down eventually. The market's overdue. So once we started, actively seeing this and knowing this type of setup, and also seeing the 60-minute getting overbought, and here's the 60-minute chart, I started taking the hedge over the last few days. Starting to look at the VIX again. So we started taking the TVIX, the TVIX, and also the VXX, which are they trade the volatility markets, and and the volatility, or the fear index, typically rises when the market pulls back. So I'm using this as a type of a hedge instead of just shorting the overall market or shorting individual stocks. I'm using more of the volatility index just to counteract if the market does pull back here. And you can see that on most of the charts. So yes, on Friday we ended off on a 60-minute chart being overbought too. So this was a kind of a HPS sell signal up here. We had the 60-minute, we have the daily setting up. But the market's bullish, so when you get to that, there's a certain rule to trading is try to trade in the direction of the market. Meaning if the market is trending up, you're going to have better success buying the pullbacks and getting the runs instead of trying to short the tops, because the bullish trend is going to continue to push higher and take those stops and add to the fuel to the fire. So it's very hard to call the top of the market, and I don't want to do that. So, but we do see this signal, and I'm preparing myself for it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work out. But going into Friday, I could really start to see the possibility of a breakdown next week. So I want to prepare myself for that. And this was really actually right at the 5-minute chart. Let's see here. We had a little bounce, and we were looking for this failure. We came in 2 o'clock. I was looking for this failure, and this combination. This was on Friday. If you traded the futures, we were looking for this failure right up against the 20-period moving average, and it was a perfect textbook failure right there. And we rolled over, and that really confirmed the 60-minute crossover. So that's how we left off across the board on that. Don't mind this little channel here, but basically the daily setup. We could continue to grind higher. I mean, we just kind of broke through 13,000 again on Friday and closed back under it. I could see us going higher, just crawling this, climbing this wall of worry type of trade. I also could see us technically just starting to break down a little, and maybe seeing a pullback down to that 1340 area. So the hedge is on, but that's not going to stop us from making money this week, because I have some great setups for you. Excellent setups. Very excited because, like I said, just each week now I have a goal to outdo the next week. So I end up putting more time and more effort, and I'm not going to settle for just a standard setup. I want to continue just to bring the best of the best setup. So I went over an extra few more hundreds of stocks. I don't know how many stocks I went over today. That's why I'm getting this out a little bit later. But out of these, we got a good lineup of stocks right now. We're going to go over them. But I just want to go also review one more time the trades we had last week and why we took them and why they worked and why they didn't work, if they didn't work. PepsiCo was the kick-ass trade of the week. And we started off the week Because of this, nice consolidation. This is, like I said, each and every day, this is the pattern we're really looking for in the 60-minute chart. It's a coiled stochastic, downward channel, typically gives us a pop, but the key is taking profits on that first pop, because lots of times you have a grind out. But, technically this really played out well. It did work out. I identified it at this point. It popped up, it gapped up, it got quickly overbought on the 60-minute chart, and then it proceeded to, slightly pull back. It was kind of a 2 or 3 day lag in the stock, and then it kind of popped again on Thursday and then sideways consolidated. Still looks good on the daily, and it was a great setup. It was a 5 to 7 day pullback. Everything looked great on it. The volume came in over the last couple of days. It actually still looks good. I would say that kick-ass trade worked well. The other one was really a good setup, which didn't break out, but we did call for a $14 tag, and we did touch $14. And that was, what do we got here? Corning. And Corning recently broke down and then came back here. So last week we touched $14. Then we kind of broke down, got oversold, kind of broke down out of this just little type of, I would call it just a channel. And lots of times you'll see that breakdown of the channel and then that fast reversal and then a reverse and then push through the channel to the upside. And that's what I'm calling on this right now. Embedded stochastics on the 60-minute chart. Going into next week, this is probably such a great setup. I just cannot wait to get into the markets and just see how this is going to break out of this. We're going to break right out of this pattern to the upside. So it's really, I really like it. Now, you might be asking, well, the daily stochastics are pointing down. Why would you go against that? And that's a good question, because the daily and the 60 are pointing down. But those indicators will always be wrong on a trend reversal. So that's the problem. When you have a downward channel trend, when you have that breakout, that's when these usually get embedded. And same thing, if you have an upward channel, usually have a breakdown, and that's where the on a downtrending pattern, lots of times you'll see that the stochastics will get embedded, and it just shows more bearishness. So in this case, we're going to look for. We have a nice consolidation here right up against this top of this trend line. This is pulling back a little. There's no reason why we can't just turn right back up on this and just get embedded on this for a while and break out and move up here. So that's what I'm looking for on Corning this week. And we left off on Friday. We had a nice crossover. We pushed back into the channel. Everything points to a nice push here now. Do I put this as a kick-ass trade? I'm not a big fan of the cheaper stocks, but this one really does look good. And a break of 14, fireworks should get going there. All right, and that was actually a trade from last week, and that's even going to be on this week's watch list. So actually, Corning's highly a high-ranked stock on this week's watch list, and we didn't even get to this week's watch list. You got to see the setups. I mean, you got to really see the setups. So I just want to go over again the EBIX, which was another coil stochastic channel. It popped, took profits in it. What I've been doing is taking profits faster on the 60-minute chart. So if it's giving me 60 cents or it's giving me $1, I'm taking it. And you can see when the 60-minute stochastics get overbought, the chances are of that move kind of expiring and starting to pull back. So you always have an opportunity to get back in. Just always remember that. You've been doing so well, just taking profits into the strength, having a signal, getting out, not worrying about anything. And then once you see that pullback, it just gives you another opportunity to get back in, because the daily still looks pretty good. But that one was a good trade, even though you're not even seeing a lot of action on there. If you break it down to the 60-minute chart, you can actually see it very clear, this nice little setup. So that was a great setup on the week. We talked about the PepsiCo, right? We did the PepsiCo EBIX. Qualcomm was a trade that was just a momentum trade. It was pushing the highs. I knew we were going to break out the 52-week highs, and that was just a fast overnight trade. Took that off for some profit. And again, that was I think I just got 50 cents on that. But 50 cents, just constantly taking the better setups, and really getting that 50 cents to $1, it really works. Now you got to look at Yahoo. Yahoo gave us a high probability setup, and what I'd said is you need to be in on this high probability setup on Yahoo. The 60-minute, the daily was all set up, and also you had a support line down here. So this is the reason we got in. And it wasn't about any news or anything. It was strictly a technical setup. And like I said so many different times, this has been in the news all this time. So at this point it was, you know, a technical setup. This point was a technical setup. This point also. So it wasn't, you know, anything. Just because the talks fell apart on Yahoo doesn't mean that wasn't going to bounce. This is going to go higher. The talks will get back to, you know, people. Yahoo is you know, is a marked company. So you know, buying on weakness was an easy call here. And, you know, we're still looking pretty good. I would still think this one breaks back about $15 and moves back up. But that was a great setup there. It was a gift. Yahoo gave us a gift. CLF Industries, or Cliff Natural Resources, excuse me. Got into this one was it on Friday? It was just a day. Yeah, we just took it for the day. And, again, it was giving us the good setup. I started running. I got into it. Got about $1 on it, and I just sold it because the 60-minute stochastic said, you know what, you're a little overbought here. The markets are you're going into the weekend. I'm not 100% sure how things are going to be tomorrow or on Monday. You know what I'm going to do? This constantly plays out. Oversold, pattern recognition, trend line, channel, entry. All right, and then you get your movement, and you get the overbought level. And the price is up here, and you just have to take it. You have to take it off, and that's what we got. We got $1 off of that. And I'll do that every single day if it gives me the opportunity. And now you have a slight little pullback. So you're not dealing with things. Well, first of all, your cash is free. You're not dealing with anything. Now you can even get the pullback, and you're a little bit safer. So CLF is on this week's watch list too. So this one is actually one of my favorites going forward. It still looks really good. The 60-minute stochastics are kind of just double bottoming here. It's a little chop there, and you might say, well, you can't tell by that. When I've seen that so many different times, I like the 60-minute pullback to the 50. I have a feeling this one's going to continue to move higher. So I want to get back into this one. So that's going to be on the watch list. We're going to talk more about that one in a bit. Johnson & Johnson still hasn't really moved. It did break down here. It was a dividend, ex-dividend date, so there was a little adjustment of the stock price. But again, what I'm calling for on this one is this channel, pulling back to the bottom of the channel. We've kind of banged the table, said you had to buy down here right off the trend line. It was right off the 200 period moving average and right off the channel line here. So the 200 period moving average held up, had a nice little bounce. I want to see this pull back into the channel a bit. And off the right. That one's not on this week's watch list. And another one, LLY. Just an update. This actually continues to look very good, and we'll talk more about this one in a bit too. And right, so let's actually let's start off with the watch list now. Let's start off with where the money's going to be made this week. And I got some money in this piece of paper right here. First of all, I want to start off talking about BRFS, Brazilian Foods. Brazilian Foods is a stock I've been watching for the last year. So I've gotten to know it a lot. You know, I know how it reverses. I know how it moves. It's a very technical trader, especially using the stochastics. It really gives you good entries. We got a great a secondary entry right here because we look for that reversal candlestick, which played out perfect. There was also a larger pennant, which was playing out, and I just called for that breakout to the pennant. But we quickly got overbought on the daily. That's a hard thing to deal with. So you get that short-term overbought signal. Now, we're very close to 52-week highs here, and when you know, it's not a game where this daily goes to the overbought, to the oversold, to the overbought, to the oversold. All right, what happens is you'll get a bullish trend, and the stochastics will stay up there a long time. You know, if we're looking at really this zone here, kind of measure right when we started getting a little overbought here. Was right around here. So at that point, at this point right here, we are overbought. And we kind of we didn't even pull back. We just kind of pulled back a little on the stochastics, dipped down a little, but the price level kept on going because this really never failed. It never really got a big crossover. And it takes time to sometimes measure this out. But what, you know, you did get the crossover here, but what I'm measuring out right now is going to the 60-minute chart. And I go back to this stock and how it performs on the 60-minute chart and how it works. you know, and it's great to go back to the stock that you've traded multiple times and just, you know, kind of look back at your notes and stuff. And I always have, you know, all my trend lines are always, the ones I've been looking at are always set back, you know, they're still on the chart, so I could go back and just see what I was looking at. And you can see that, you know, this one has a definite style to it. Gets oversold on the 60, flags out, it pops. All right, let's zoom in here. Especially in an uptrending, you know, you really want to see those flags in an uptrend. But the 60-minute works really good on Brazilian foods. 60-minute got pulled back. You can see the downward channel. That's all we look for, because we look for the momentum to push us back up. And then we actually started to really get into a rhythm here. So you got oversold. You could actually put the channel in there, and then again, we moved out of that. We're buying on the bottom part of these channels, and you're getting to move out of those channels, well, out of these flags and moving up. Here we got a little embedded stochastic. It kind of broke down. Nothing really to worry about there, because there was an underlying trend line right there. And then again, we got oversold. We bounced back up. Now we came back into an oversold level, and we have a textbook flag here. So we're going to look for this one to, you know, again, we just got that crossover. It still looks really good, so we just want to see this now really take off and break out. So Brazilian foods, definitely want to see how it works this week. I feel like we're probably a week away from this breaking out to 52-week highs. Now the next stock here, another one that I am really jonesing on, Amazon. Not a lot of Amazon fans out there, but I want to talk to you about this one in a different light. Just talking about statistics, probabilities, and other things. All right, again, it's a big stock here, stock that everyone knows. You know, it works well using indicators. You go back to the 60-minute stochastic, you can see each time it pulled back into an oversold level, you usually got a nice bounce off of this, going all the way back here. So it makes sense. And, you know, some days you do get that chop that lasts a day or two, you know, but the majority of the time, if you're oversold, the area of least resistance is up or to overbought. All right, and these are, you know, this gives you that type of move. And when you get overbought, then you get the downward move. So right now, we just got off an oversold level, and we started bouncing back up. We didn't get an aggressive move back up here, and that's why I'm going to start watching this, because the real key thing here on Amazon is that the daily is about to set up, and the daily is the mother of all, you know, especially on a stock like this. It doesn't stay down here. If you ever see like Apple on the daily, stochastics oversold, or Google, it does not stay there very long. It's definitely a trigger, and it's very close to hitting that. So question is, do we get down to that level? Is there a little more selling pressure in Amazon? And if it was, we could come back down one more time on that 60. And what would happen is you're starting to see kind of a coiled stochastic setting up here. So this is really a setup I want to set up a little bit more. I actually prefer Amazon. To pull back and really get another, you know, get the stochastic right back down here into oversold on the 60. That would really just, and see where that price level was there. I can't see it dropping further than 73. So, you know, I give this thing 6 points. I would give it 6 points easy. If it pulled back a little, I'd start scaling in a little bit more. I think this is a great setup down the road. If not this week, then we'll see how it sets up. Now, another thing you have to always remember, we always talk about taking these positions in a bullish trending market. That's what we have going on right now. Things change short term. We can put a little more pressure on the market. Things might not move as expected, so might have to reevaluate if we have a breakdown and a trend change. But right now, I'm really liking the Amazon and keep a close eye on it this week. When it does set up here, and this happens to get down to this level, and at 60 minutes set up, I think it's going to be one of the better trades of the year for an upside move. This is just textbook. I'm not seeing a lot on the 60-minute as a pattern setup, though. We're not really identifying a channel. The further you go out, sometimes you could see it, but it's kind of a sloppy channel, if it is a channel at all. It seems like there was a breakdown, and you know what I'm saying. It's not much of one, but this is really good. All right, Cliff Natural Resources, CLF. Talked about it on a review. We took the trade last week. We took the trade based off the 60-minute channel, oversold stochastics. We got a nice pop. Got CLF here. Well, I got about $1 on it, $1 on the trade on one day. It was just a perfect setup. But again, going into the weekend, I wanted to take it off and just kind of instill the discipline that's been holding up so well. But looking at the daily, it has to go on this week's watch list. This is actually probably the second kick-ass trade of the week right now. Cliff Natural Resources, an excellent setup here. Got a little double bounce on the stochastics, which is really good. But the underlying trend line here on the daily combined with the 60-minute, the daily setup here, 60-minute already broke out. We could get, I don't even know if we're going to pull back down here. If we do pull back down here, we'll measure this out. We shouldn't be below it in this part. Maybe we're going to be here. And then we're going to look for that move back up, So we'll see where this starts to look good. I want to buy this on, on strength. I want to definitely get back into this. Everything I don't, the problem with just saying, all right, this is the price level you want to get in at. What we want to do is pay attention to what's happening in the market on this week. We don't want to just get into a long position if the market's unstable Monday or there appears to be that breakdown of that 60-minute. We want to measure what's called relative strength versus the overall market. So I want to be able to watch this. This is on the watch list. I'm definitely going to take it, but I'm not going to just say buy at $68. So I wanted to pretty much give you the on the fly alert on this one and send it out as it's happening, because we're going to really see how it's going to set up. I want to get right back into it. I'm probably going to get back into it on Monday. I don't want to miss the opportunity on it. If we get a gap down, I'll start scaling in. I do feel it's going to hold this level. Everything looks great on it. I think we just need to get back in. This channel lines should hold up. Worst case scenarios, and I doubt this is, I doubt that's going to come into play down here. I think this channel line under here is good, and I think this was just a flush and a reversal. So I don't think this line down here extended will ever come into play. So I think this is about it. Great setup. Great setup. Looking for this to just continue to move up, turn up here. So I would say, for me, I'm going to be getting in. First of all, watch the open, see the relative strength in the first 10, 15 minutes, see how it's acting. It seems to be holding up better than the markets. I will, start my entry. So we're going to watch this one closely on Monday morning. All right, here's a money maker for you. Biogen, stock that I haven't traded in a while, but a great stock. Great price, $116. Perfect setup. It's a HPS setup, or an HPS, high probability. I always say high probability setup. That's what it is. And I always like to make that in green, because that's like the theme of the new website coming out, is the greenish theme. HPS is green. Perfect pullback here. Perfect pullback on the daily. And this, again, a very big stock, a very strong, healthy, known quality company. Does give you setups. When it does get back into an oversold level, you typically get a nice move. Here, there's a key here. We have a little embedded stock, a little sideways action, delayed motion, first 180 pullback. This is really looking like a flag to me. You look at it closely on the daily and you're saying, well, this looks pretty good, looks pretty organized. Wait until you see the 60-minute chart. 60-minute, you go to the 60-minute and talk about being organized. It's a perfect channel. Perfect channel on Biogen. And the reason it's an HPS is because we got the 60-minute timing with the daily. We have the recognizable pattern. We have the pattern that usually breaks out to the upside. The only question is, do we get the position here, or do we see if we come back here? The stochastics are saying if we get a gap down, you got to be all over this. If you get to again, this is everything pointing to, we would love to be able to get this position. That's around 114.72. I'd like to put that in as a target, but I do believe this one's set up, and lots of times, as this downward channel might not be tested for the third time, we're just going to move up. That's the thing about these channels. You have a downward channel, your direction is up. Upward channel, your direction is down. It doesn't have to touch the lower trend line before it goes. This could have been the touch right here, and we're just flagging out and moving up. So this is really great. I'm just happy to spot this one before it really actively crossed over on the 60. I feel like we're a day early on this, and this is exactly what we want. Now remember, Biogen, as with any other stock, I have to throw out the disclaimer that there could be there could be news out there in the market of individual company specific news that might affect this, that we cannot see. So there's always a chance of a setup not working based off of these. But technically, everything looks pretty good on this, and this is definitely worth my entry. So if we get down to the lower trend line, I am all over this. And if we don't get down there, I'm probably all over this too. So an HPS setup here, Biogen, BIIB. Very happy to bring it to you. Now, hey, I got better setups on the way here. All right, I feel I need to bring this one to your attention, even though I probably won't take this. Deere is a quality company. We all know Deere. It's in a pullback phase. It had a nice little bounce, kind of failure here of the daily. We look at the 60-minute chart to get a better view. You can actually see the 60 is a much better little indicator here as we get down into close to an oversold level. That stock tends to ramp back up. In this case, we even here in this situation. So we're back down to this level. We're holding off the recent lows, which is a slight divergence. And even if we got down to this double bottom right here would be good too. So a little gap down might would probably be a nice bounce area here for a move back up. Everything pointed for is a bounce here on Deere. All right, and it's it is kind of close to an HPS setup. We're on an underlying trend line. There is actually a little line underneath us if we extend it down to the bottom of the candle here and use a 1, 2, 3 method, or even just two pivot areas here to make that trend line. Then we might see a little further move down, probably around the 82.30 to 82 area. And right now we're trading at 83.20. So, a dollar to the downside might be something we might need in this Deere. I'll watch it. I don't think I'm going to take it. MT is another one that I want to really pay attention to. Now, I outlined it, the base here in green. This is basically a big steel company. And the steel makers, metals, not the gold and stuff, but the steel stocks have been really underwater and been lagging the overall market. So it's important to watch some of the steel stocks, MT, US Steel, the ones I watch. Both of them just grinding slower, oversold basically, but kind of grinding up, staying within this very shallow, not a very big channel, not a very upward biased channel, but a slow grind. We're oversold. Everything looks good for a continued move. I think we need the metals to pick up the pace here if the market's going to go higher. So I'd pay attention to the metals going forward. We do happen to break down out of here, which there is a possibility. I mean, there's a reason why we're lagging here. But let's go on US Steel, which is the one I'm really interested in. US Steel has a perfect setup. All right, so it's a typical of a breakout. This was a stock that we traded, I think it was last week. It was just a perfect setup, and you can recognize the setup. Call it stochastic, tight downward channel, entry, exit, boom, boom, boom. Now it's pulled back into a nice little flag. So it's actually going back into a channel pattern on the downside. So we're going to watch the 60-minute setup, and if we could get this down here, and even if it did break down through lows, technically it would be set up better. We'd be flushing those recent weak hands, and we set up on the lower trend line, and then it'll probably reverse. So this might be a tricky hold. If we get a breakout here, then I'm going to really going to say that this is we're going to head back into this channel and push higher. If we do break down, I want to continue to watch this underlying trend line, not the low here, but this underlying trend line. This channel is starting to develop, and that would be an excellent entry place. And just to give us an idea where that is. Around 27.30. So it's 28.13 right now. So 27.30. Not that much, 80 cents away. It's just not a little bit more, but just not that big of a pullback I'm seeing. So that's US Steel. Want to watch that this week. I'd rather buy this more in a pullback. I like it here, still holding it. Still like it to move to the upside here. Daily is going to give us possibly a double bounce on the stochastics. That happens here. You can see the little bounce and then the pullback, and that's really where the trends begin. So the potential for the next leg up here in the next phase could be right here. Could be right here. This is really where this we should get that bounce up, and then this should really take off. So we're at an important spot in the market, and we're at an important spot in the metal stocks. All right. I want to yell out FedEx, such a quality name, such a quality stock. How dare it give it such a clear and cut buy signal? I mean, it's almost, this is the worst case scenario, is when you get something that looks way too good to be true, and it's just, it's like, wow. Very rarely do you want to, you would love to see this all the time. The FedEx here, recognizable channel, coming down to the trend line, coming down to the 50-period moving average, oversold on the daily. 60-minute chart pulling back, oversold. Everything lined up for a Monday pop. So again, what I want to see really is how the market's going to perform Monday, how we open up overnight, what kind of news is out there that comes into the market on Monday morning. So we do have a little push down here. This it's not really much of a downward channel on the 60-minute chart. I bet you could just lines up somewhere up here, but you're not seeing much of a downward channel. But what we are seeing is the time frame is set up here, and again, you can look at any times frames. On a big stock like this, you get back down to, you do have those little bounces. Sometimes it might not be a lot, but from the entry you can see the directional move here was kind of a little chop, but the directional move afterwards was up. Here again, the directional move was up until we got oversold or started tipping back over. Again, the same thing here, little directional move up. So we're back down into an oversold level. Makes a lot of sense that we're going to pop out of this downward flag. The combination of that and the daily run on this trend line, everything looking really good. It just seems really too good to be true. So FedEx, I like some other setups that are going to come on the chart, but you can't deny this FedEx is set up. FDX. All right, here's another great one. This stock we haven't covered before, but is definitely a well-known stock.
Aflac.
AFL. Aflac. Aflac from the Aflac duck.
Aflac.
Well, anyway, you're gonna love this. Perfect trend line pullback. It just came out of a base, what we call an inverted head and shoulders pattern. Broke down a little head, a little shoulder. Popped out of here. Just really the first retracement since the breakout here, up here, and we kind of moved all the way up. This is really that first retracement, pulling back, holding above the 60, holding the trend line. Take a look at the 60-minute chart. Boom. Does that look familiar? All right. So you know what we need to do. This pattern should break up to the upside. Everything looks good. I think your entry could be anywhere here. You're on a lower. You have pretty much the HPS setup here, so you're in that zone at 46.90 right now, 46.90. So we'll just call that zone anywhere in this zone here. At the open on Monday, looks again, news, company news or world news could affect stocks like this. So if you do get that gap down, just measure that out. I'm going to be watching this one also with you because I really do like the setup here. Aflac. So perfect setup, HPS setup. I'm glad to bring that to you. So next stock here, and this is and I have some other ones that won't even make the list that are good setups. I'll be sure to give you those too. Here we have Carnival Cruise Lines, and I didn't write anything out on this one other than the recent tragedy over there in Italy. With the cruise ship, the Carnival cruise ship, and you can see what happened here was the gap down, gapped us down. We've moved up and bounced and came back, and we continue to bounce off the support line. But what we do have is an oversold indicator again, and what we always like to say is don't believe the news, believe the indicator. I.e. Yahoo recently. Yahoo coming down to the lower part of the channel line, oversold stochastics, we get a nice 2-day bounce. So let's take a look at that 60-minute chart. And here we go, 60 minutes set up also. So Carnival Cruise Lines, it's a wild card factor because you just don't know if there's any underlying news out there, lawsuits, or I don't know what could come out of this thing, but it's given us a good signal. And there's There's not much else there. We're just kind of seeing what kind of support this is going to hold. We're on the support line right now, so it might be a little risky. I just don't know what. I haven't traded this one in a while, and with the overhanging news, I'm going to watch it because I want to see how important this setup is versus the, that support line underneath us. It looks good. All right, here's a good example of a new stock. No, it's something I've never followed before. It came up on a scan. I think I was doing I would say I do about 4 or 5 different type of scans. I do a stochastic scan, I do a pattern scan, I do a formula scan, which I put in on the IQ charts, which brings the stocks to me. But this one came up on a I think it was it was the stochastic scan, and how organized this one is on the stochastics. I mean, this is a stock that you don't hear a lot about, Avalon Bay Communities, but if you look at it, you're saying, wow, this is just something I could just key on each time it gets down to this level. Let's start taking a look at it. Each time it's given us such a tremendous bounce, and it's now developed a kind of a trend line. And these are pretty serious. This is not a bad. It's a big stock. Remember, this is a $130 stock, and it's moving. That was a 10, almost a 20-point move right there. There's 112 to 133, 20-point move right there. So these are giving you some good returns when you get an oversold level on the daily like this. So we're just starting off. We're about 133 and change. Does this one bring us back up and break out 52-week highs? Let's take a look at the 60-minute. We already had a big candlestick on Friday, so you can see that on the 60-minute stock, and you can see this one pattern out before, and it was you really always want to take your positions, your long positions, on the 60-minute oversold. Why would you do anything other than that? If you did anything other than that, you're just taking a chance, or you're getting greedy, or just, myself included, you're just you're impatient, and the patience is what pays in this game. So I'm going to be patient. I'm going to watch this one. It's on the watch list this week. If we ever get that perfect opportunity, it's like it's a check that we're ready to cash, and I just need the bank to open up down here. So I want to get this down here. Everything else is set up fine. Even this, the price doesn't need to be down here. I just want this down here. I want the stochastics to rotate down a little. Just give me a little risk to work with. This price level, I'll measure it. If we're not really moving much and we're starting to see this kind of pull back, then I know that probably it's good, positive divergence, and we're going to pop up out of there. If we see this kind of rotate down, get oversold, and this comes back down like this, and we're holding off of recent lows, again, I still want to be in that one. If we come back down and we're down here, again, I want to be. So there's a lot of scenarios that could work out here, and it needs to be paid attention to early this week. It's a good setup. Most of these setups are excellent setups this week. I've never traded this one before, though, but it does have that look to it. Now I got some really good ones. We've gone through about 10 stocks already. Now I still have some kick-ass trades to bring you. So let me get those to you right now. All right, Altera, ALTR. It is setting up here. This is another good pattern we've recognized. I recognize, and I want to have it on our focus list going forward, even into next week, because even though we are having a good setup right now, daily is oversold, 60-minute is getting down to an oversold. There's a recognizable little pattern here. So this 38.15 level, and if we can actually get this down here, would actually be a good entry right around this level for that bounce. And the daily also, that's a little different story, but again, I just want to keep this one in mind, because going out, that's about 36.80. Comes down to around that trend line, 36.80. So something that, another 2-point move down off of that would be a great bounce too. But we have to see what causes the market to get down to that level, and just understanding that level right there is important. So again, looks almost set up for a little bounce here off of 38.13. Now, ANR, let's break these down. Normally I'm charting these out and then getting on the mic, but you know what? Now we're starting to get to some really good, really nice setups here. Look at this daily chart here on this one. ANR. This is another coal stock. and very similar to, you know, BTU or Peabody, CNX, Console Energy, even Walter Energy. Everything kind of consolidating on the lows here. Stochastics are oversold. But this is a similar situation throughout the coal sector. But we had a nice reversal candlestick on Friday and on huge volume. So this caught my attention. And, you know, we are oversold. And the 60-minute chart, because we had that big candlestick, brought us into an overbought level. So it's hard to go against that right now. So with that, like to see the pullback. But we are seeing an embedded stochastic here, and we flagged out really nicely here. And coal sector is a sector that can move on its own. Doesn't have to really trade with the overall markets and energy stocks. So if the overall markets are down, we can still see strength in coal if coal is set up for that strength. BTU, there's the BTU chart. Again, similar setup. We have a big pop, pullback on earnings. It definitely could continue to grind back up. I think that the coal is getting closer and closer to being set up really well. And you can notice a lot of the stocks are very similar patterns. So they're all drifted lower, and they've really been one of the worst performers of the year. Here's the Console Energy. Again, getting oversold. And this one's actually holding up pretty good. It's not really pulling back into a channel. It's giving us an inverted head and shoulders pattern. And just because this is giving us the inverted head and shoulder pattern makes me actually more bullish on the overall sector. Because this is more of a, you know, not to say it's best of breed, you know, but it is definitely a quality stock right now. And we are pulling back on that daily, and this is actually a very, very good reversal pattern right now. So the coal stocks, no doubt about them, got to pay attention to them. Again, gotta kind of maintain that focus and not chase stocks. So right now it might be considered chasing this one, but we're overbought. We didn't really get much of a bounce. So if we actually pull back down, then we can start concentrating on where we want to get on this one. But it's something to watch going forward. CNX. So we went to NNR here. Now another sector that's lining up really well is the video game sector. That was the first thing that hit me today, and I was going to start off with that, but I ended up I'm going to end with the video game sector. We're going to start off with Electronic Arts. And you can see that Electronic Arts on the daily is even coiled up, and we're pulling back to a band of support line, There's a gap down here which we haven't closed yet. For those gap people who trade gaps and believe in gaps, like that's about 15.90 and change. That's another $1 to the downside, which, you know, would confirm this lower trend line area. But other than that, the 60-minute also oversold, so this does look good. We have an HPS setup on EA, and we're gonna just scroll over to the next one, Take-Two Interactive, TTWO, and let's take a look at that daily. This one is a different character. It's a little stronger stock, but again, we just got an oversold level on the daily, and you can see the nice bounce that's given us from that level. You know, so I wasn't really even looking at this sector, but this was a classic pullback. You can see that nice pullback. Now we'll look at the 60-minute chart, and you can actually see what we're always looking for. And what we're trying to look for is this recognizable steep channel. Well, you know, nice channel, but the coiling and the nice. You'll get the feel of this type of combination here, and then you usually get that coming to the end. You get the lower trend line, your entry, and your exit, even though it could head higher. And this daily continues to look pretty good for an upside push. That's Take-Two Interactive. ATVI, also oversold on the daily. It's really sideways. This one's gone sideways in this channel for a while, but we're oversold once again. We're holding off the recent lows. ATVI, Activision. I haven't pulled my my Xbox. I haven't pulled my Xbox out. When the Xbox first came out, I ended up buying it just for some research purposes, and now I have all these games. What I do like about the Activision is there's the recognizable 60-minute channel, which looks great. So again, if you have these stocks in front of you, and you really got to be trading with multiple screens. You want to have one screen dedicated to your watch list. Have your notes, what your levels are, This level right now would be 11. We'll call it 1190. You want to give yourself a little room before you get a trigger there, and you want these to come up on your chart. So you want to be able to have that 10 stocks that you're focused on during the week, and you have your notes in front of you on your paper. You have to have your crap together to make money in this market. That's why we put so much effort into research and waiting for the setups to come to us. Excuse me. Talking too much. I need to get another Coke. I'm on my 4th Coke too. You can hear it in my voice. I'm all fired up now. Anyway, Activision, great little channel. Perfect entry. Cash check down here. Daily, sideways consolidation, but getting oversold here. So this does look good. ATVI, Activision. Did I go over the Corning setup? I'm not sure. The video was already getting deep into the 45-minute zone, but I think I did go over this one at Corning. This is actually going to continue to be on this week's watch list. Nice consolidation. Looking for a pop out of this one this week. Very high confidence in this. 60-minute chart already embedded. We already predicted this flush and this pushback into the channel, which is right here. So we're going to come right outside the top part of this channel. This was the fake out, shake out, and this is going to be the pop, and this is going to be the run coming up here in Corning. Love the setup here in Corning. GLW. I would carry this over as a kick-ass trade of the week. So we got a few kick-ass trades of the week this week, but and then we have 2 more kick-ass trades of the week. This is the problem. I can start bringing you too many good setups, and then the next thing you know, we're overwhelmed and we're not taking any of them. All right, so really have to stay true to 10 good setups. But here's one of my favorite setups, and I am gonna mark it as another best bet for the week. This one is called Clack. Clack is it's a chip company, semiconductor, believe. Falls right into that, and it's been around a while. Those traders during the tech bubble, you might remember Click and Clack. I think we're going to zoom out here, and this is a 60-minute chart. So you see what I'm looking at right now. This is come right into my scope right here. We have any type of gap down on Monday. We have the oversold level, boom, on the 60. We have this little $47 level down there, which it's just hanging out. I mean, it's just waiting for us to get there. Right around $47. Whenever you have these little spike down candlesticks, it's also very good that this area is a true area. And there's no doubt about it, the top trend line is intact. And then it was a reversal there. So if we get down to there, it's an automatic setup. It's an automatic kick-ass trade all the way. Again, you can see the nice pullback off the 52-week highs. 60 minutes set up here. So Clack is set up. Clack is definitely set up. What happens, worst case scenario, market gaps up on Monday. This thing gaps up. I think, I think you have to get, I'm going to have to get in. I think I'm going to have to get in. I would love to be able to get that order in for 47.15. And we might have to set those up early Monday morning. Really depends on how this market is going to open up. We always try to get the best price for the at the time. But if this market decides to hold here, I'm not going to wait around for this level. Everything is set up for a bounce and a nice setup. It is. So Clack here. Clack. And then, of course, one last one. We'll finish the watch list off with one last one. General Mills, GIS, HBS setup. Just about. I think this was a HBS setup here, and this is when we measured this one out. It was about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, about 2 weeks ago. This was the HBS setup right here off the 200 period moving average oversold, and you saw that nice bounce we got off of that right here. Since then, we've turned back over. We kind of collapsed in our own whatever it's doing on here. Kind of gap down. It's really a 5 to 7 day pullback entering its 5th day. I put a 1, 2, 3 pattern here, which if you might be new, I don't talk about the 1, 2, 3 pattern every day, but I did some have some videos on it, so I definitely want to direct you to those videos. But basically, we're taking 3 pivot areas of the recent highs and lows, and then we usually start that trend line if there's a gap in the price. So I could use this as 1, 2, 3, and then what I want to do is this was actually a rising wedge. Once it established itself as a rising wedge, you had to set up for the breakdown, and then you had your first bounce back up to trend line resistance, and then a failure, and then we started coming back down. Now I'm kind of measuring out the 4th test here, and the 4th test usually lines up with a parallel trend line with number 1 or number 2, depending on which one has the 2 lines, and you just extend that line parallel distance from the established line above you, and that ends up becoming your focus point of your entry. And the combination of that plus the oversold daily and the oversold would make this a tremendous entry level, and that comes in right around 37. Let's drop that down a little in case we get an early flush in this stock. I'd watch this thing around 37.70 to start alerting you of that entry level. 37.70. And remember, we're talking, we're trying not to, get this thing just by this, save pennies on this. I mean, you have to give yourself a little extra wiggle room here when you get down to trend lines and stuff. You're not going to get the exact entry, but you're definitely going to get a profit off of this if we get down to this level. It's a great setup. We just need to work on that. 37.70. We write that down so we have those in the notes. And I got to set up my charts also with these alerts, so that's what I need to do. So we're alerted to this when it does happen. And again, the 60-minute chart. If you look at this, that's about 37.90. If it actually moves back down, 37.70 area. And this what can happen here is it doesn't have to just spike right down. We can have reversals. We can have a lot of things happening here. Oh, come on, let's get rid of these lines, please. You could just get down to that level like that and bounce, or we could just flush out, kind of gap down, and then push back into it like this. So a lot of different things can happen here. And I would watch for all of them. But this whole area is going to be a nice buy zone. There's no doubt about it. And that's on General Mills. So I hope it wasn't too much information. Just in recap, I need to recap because I need to remember also here. Definitely like the Brazilian foods going into next week. Amazon is definitely one of the bigger setups that's coming our way. Cliff Natural Resources, kick-ass trade, right? Biogen, perfect setup. You gotta love this one too. Steel stocks look good. AstraZeneca, FTX. Let me see if I'm just going to Carnival Cruise Line, Aflac, FedEx, ANR. Nice reversal candlestick on ANR. Anyway, you have all the information out there. I want to get it on the site for you. I hope you enjoyed this watch list, and I'll talk to you guys Monday morning.